Your circle will change as you accomplish your goals and level up. Everybody can't go.
Right, y'all. We got another Everybody Can't Go convo. Happy Wednesday. Today, I brought to you guys somebody that can go. One of my favorite day twos, okay, up in the building. I know that I told you guys that I would be bringing you folks that I really like, people that really have been a part of my journey, people that really have been a part of the brand, a part of the story that led to the brand. And so today I bring to you guys my sister, Riri Cohn Hardy. And say hi to the people. Say hey to the people.
Hey, folks. Hey, everyone. Glad to be here.
So, let's see. For us to get started out, like because we have similar backgrounds in terms of like for me where everybody can go came from and the places at which that our lives converged together. And so like you guys, you all know parts and bits and pieces of my story. If you read the book, you know like the chunks and the things that led toward me doing that introspection, that self-reflection, and looking at the quality of people that I chose to keep in my life, that I chose to be around or keep around or allow around me and in my space. And so like for you, would you share with the people like your version of Everybody Can't Go? Like how did that transition start to happen for you? Like what were some of the things that started to kind of like make you think like, don't know if I should, if this is the right, season, if this is the right reason, and maybe, some of these relationships aren't meant for a lifetime.
The first realization for me was my very first visit back home. So, of course, as you know, I am prior service. I am a Army veteran, and I took some time away from home, moved around, was stationed a few places, returned home, and visited, some of the previous chapters, day ones, right? And that first visit, I was like, oh, I thought I would be so happy to see people. And I truly was initially, but the expectation of growth was much higher than the reality of it. And that was very telling. So just really experiencing what the reality of coming back home to Detroit was, might I add, it was disheartening. I'll be quite honest. When a lot of times, as we always encourage people to, move and venture out and just explore different things, and you do gain a new mindset as you start to do that. So for me, it was definitely venturing out into the world and returning home and just seeing how not much had changed and there was not a lot of growth. And I started to realize that I really needed to start looking at some new circles, or at least minimizing my own circle and the people that, were that I included in it. So that kind of started moving that way. Yeah.
Okay. So it was a lot in there. One of the things that firstly that stuck out for me was with you actually being physically away from home, um,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of afforded you the opportunity to not see the day-to-day as things became mundane for some of the people that you were around. Because a lot of the time we all start out at the same level at certain stages in life, and we'll travel along together as long as we're, doing certain stages and steps. But as you start to leave from the pack or as you start to move away, um, you start to experience like a different set of desires, in all
Yeah.
honesty. your taste for even things as simple as what you like to do to hang out or what you find fun, the type of conversations that you like having, the things that you're taking in to your ears, your mind, sometimes the things that you are taking into your body. And so, like just you being like physically removed from the space. And I imagine you were overseas and probably not too much access to like, you know, to always be on the phone and like video chatting and stuff every day. And
Mhm.
so I think that it sounds like that may have made it a little bit more easy for you to kind of see the difference in you like once you came back.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And not only that, I would just add, because my first time really being away from home, yes, it was in the service, but what really made it different from many of my other peers that had also spent time away from home, because I did take a break from college to join the military, but the difference from my time being away from home was it was very militant. I'll start there. It was very disciplined. It was very regulated. It was basic training. So it's a completely different experience, right? There is no social media. There is no phones. There is no, you know, video calling home. You're not keeping up with what's going on. You don't even have that desire that you mentioned, right? Like, oh, they so turned up, they hanging out this weekend, and oh, I missed that. And it's just not there. You're very focused on just, what you have on your plate already. So you are very removed from what's going on in the real world or back home in your civilian life. So I will say that did you were essentially sheltered in a way, but it did make it easier to not really have that urge to just jump right back into things, from just having that access of, oh, they're hanging out, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're getting drunk, and you know it wasn't so accessible to
Mhm.
even miss.
So that sounds like minimizing distractions and
Yeah.
minimizing decisions. So you were able to use your situation in your environment to help prevent procrastination. Shout out to Milty by the decisions. Just it was not there. You didn't
Mhm.
have the option to click on social media or for somebody to text you like you're in the middle of working on something that you're like, okay, this is for my future. This is something that I need to, get set in place. And you're in the middle of working on that. And it's like, oh, the phone rings, or you get a text message like, oh, hey, come hang with us, whether it's hang out or hang in.
Mhm.
And so that would be something that I will point out to you viewers as we if you haven't caught some of the previous episodes, like go back and check out how these the different circumstances people were able to use them to their advantage. Sometimes there are circumstances that roadblocks or barriers that you would have had or that others would have had. Their circumstances kind of remove some of those things. So that's part of the reason why I'm like, okay, you guys, everybody's journey is not exactly the same, and everyone's reasoning for how they move isn't always going to be exactly the same. Um, and so with that, about how long was your like your journey from leaving home into having like a mindset shift and actually like starting to set goals and things that you're like, okay, I know where I'm aiming and I know why I'm doing this. Talk to us about that journey and how long that like took for you.
I'll say when the journey started, because this, of course, is a journey, right? So when the journey started, I was about 18. And that's when I joined my very first mastermind group. So I was very diligent. However, I was also very distracted, right? So I understood the principles were there. I understood a paradigm shift was needed, and I did begin practicing that. However, I was 18. So distractions did what they do. They distracted. So, I did my part, and, I practiced where I could, and I made small changes here and there. They would last for a little bit. I would hop on, and, I would hop back off when I got that text, and go on about, whatever I chose at the time. However, when I did leave, I would say I was gone for maybe close to a year, when I really was knuckling down. And then when I returned home, I moved outside of the city and I was more focused. But not only did I move outside of the city, I moved closer to one of who one of the person who was the most successful friend that I knew in my circle at the time.
Mhm.
So I may have been about 21 going on 22 at the time, actually 2 weeks before my 22nd birthday. So I had really no support circle in that area, but she did. And again, she was my most successful, or one of my most successful friends at the time. So I said, you know what? These, former
Success League too.
RODs, these
Mm-hmm.
former RODs that I've been kicking it with since the 90s. I love you ladies. However, I got some goals, and I've been learning some lessons, right? Since I've graduated high school, and I really want to get back to it. So I will say, just having the knowledge that I started building before I left, and at least having that foundation did give me at least some principles to come back home to. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Okay, that's what's up. And I
Mhm.
like how you took us to that portion where you talked about not only being in closer proximity physically, so being closer to the physical environment of one of your most successful friends, but also that led to you spending more time with her. And so, like I said, success leaves clues. So, what were some of the things that you started to pick up with hanging out with her more, and starting to like integrate into that into her circle, and starting to learn something that was above where you had taken yourself so far, kind of like being in a peer mentee type role, where we
Yes.
should always have those who we are helping to come behind us, as well as making sure that we have those who are above us to help us to continue to build and grow towards our best version of ourselves, towards whatever our business goals are, anything it is that you're trying to do that's a part of building out your vision and any of your milestones. Having that person that's like, you here, and they're like a couple steps ahead, so that they're able to mentor you.
Absolutely. It's so funny because she never knew that she was mentoring me, but I was learning from this girl. I was learning from her family. So, like I said, I could see the distinction, right, between the girls that I grew up with, and the support that she had. So I said, you know what, let me go ahead and do it. I'm going to move myself outside of the city, and I'm going to come out here. And it was quite a ways, right? But I also grew up in an environment where in the city, I kind of had the go-to house, right? Anybody will pull up. And that did
Mhm.
not help with those distractions, right? I've admitted that those distractions were quite prevalent. So if I can't remove them, I can remove me, right? That's being the master of our own fate. So I went ahead and I made that decision. And how it helped was having that example, being very close, having someone that I could go to, and just um having okay, so when we don't have our village, we have to learn that we can create it. And I think I started learning that very young, because I did not always have resources, but I started making my own, and I started creating the access to my own resources. So that was something that I did. So that was truly it. I just took it upon myself. And I can't even say if I truly knew that that was what I was doing at the time, but I understood that that's where I was more comfortable. Now, I will say that I remember, of course, I grew up in Detroit, moved around the city a little bit. Not all of those areas were the best. Some of them a little later on in life were, I was in a much better situation, thankfully. But I had I was guarded. I had a roughness to myself. So when I did have that exposure to this friend and her circle, it was really an eye opener because they were all just very like just nice girls. They were nice girls. They were not, rough riders, rough chicks. They was not the type, and I don't even mean mean girls, but I just mean like uh they didn't need to be riders, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, we just all having a good time. We're just here to have fun. There was no pressure. So it was really a sense of relief, a sense of warmth, a sense of comfort and community that I did not have before. My previous sense of community was, oh yeah, girl, if you walk up, I got your back. That was the community. And I'm just being real with you. I'm just being 100% like, that was the community. Okay, that's just what it was. Like, no questions asked. I got you, girl. But this community was completely different. So that was a breath of fresh air. We all visited each other. Whatever college, whatever university you went to, we were taking road trips and we were just visiting each other, and we just all had fun. There was no bad energy. And that did so much for me. I just was like, girls like you exist. And I just knew that would be my forever circle. And it has been. Like, we've been solid ever since.
That's good. I love that for you. I so love that for you. Like that change of environment, and that how the environment changes and the people in it changes. Like just that in itself, it is a life-changing experience in multiple ways. There will be like parts about you that it's like, dang, like, do I want too much? Or like, did I, there will be things that you'll be thinking about yourself when you're in the wrong environment, or if you've overstayed your welcome in a certain environment because it was time for you to move, time for you to go, and it was time for you to evolve. Like, you no longer fit in the pot. Like, okay, like, look, it's time to move up you have to be uprooted and replanted in the next size pot so you can continue growing because you're not done yet. And so I'm really, really glad to hear like how that it like the one person kind of led you into seeing this whole new world of like, oh, people like you do exist. And it's not just one over here or one over there. Oh, I saw that one movie that one time. It's like, no, there really are communities of people who, no matter what level people are at, you can find that support, or like you said earlier, you can create your own community, and you do get to choose. Like, you're allowed to choose who's in your space, who is influencing you. And a lot of time, like I know now, it's like, oh, everybody wants to be an influencer, yada yada yada. And so to a certain degree, we've kind of watered down what it means to be influenced, because everybody wants to be an influencer. But at the end of the day, it's like there are a handful of things that we don't necessarily pay attention to unless you're thinking about what you're thinking about and paying attention to what's coming into your subconscious, what is going into your body, and what type of materials you consuming. We talk a lot about what's being consumed as we're scrolling through our phone, or when we flick on the news, or what type of movies we're watching. But how many times do we actually sit with ourselves and look at whether or not the people that we're hanging around, the people that we sit with on a regular basis, as they're saying and doing things that are pouring into us, they're going to be pouring something, unless they just taking everything. So, and look, hashtag everybody can't go. Get to the chapter about those parasitic relationships, unless they just take it. But there is something that's being poured into you. And if there's like, negativity, misalignment, it don't even have to be bad. It could just be things that are not useful for you at that stage, or things that are distractions, hindrances, things that are, sending you down the path to the left when it's like, no, right turn, make a right turn, make a right turn, next right turn. And it's like, oh, it was back there. Now you're looking backwards instead of looking forward, and so I could definitely say, like I for sure relate as well, with like how my circle changed, and like the evolution and the different needs that I started to have from the people that were around me. Sometimes I think like that what is the saying? Like, it's lonely at the top. And I'm like, everybody always say that about getting rich, but I'm like, no, I kind of think it's just lonely at the top if you didn't properly self-assess and look at the choices that you are making and who you're around and who you allow around. And then also making decisions and choices to not step into the next room or the new environment or step into the new community, which
absolutely,
like, that's a self choice. That is a self choice.
Everybody can't go doesn't mean that no one can.
That part. She just dropped the gem for y'all. If I haven't reminded you before, the truth is everybody can go. Everybody is not going to choose to go.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I told y'all that a few weeks ago, that everybody can go. Everybody is not going to choose to go. Everybody doesn't desire to go. Everyone wasn't meant to go.
Yes.
I mean, everybody wants to be a legend. Everybody, they're like, yes, my destiny. And it's like, okay, all these little epics, they're different movies for a reason. Like, the same hero ain't in every single story. Every single character is not led to the same destiny.
Right.
Sometimes, like, your paths will separate. You may converge back together later in life if you don't overstay a season. But like, it ultimately is up to us individually to take that time out with us and assess, like, what am I actually trying to do? What are my goals? And not just that, how am I going to get there? And take a look at, is your environment reflective of that? Is your environment going to help you get there? Are the people that you around, are they going to help you get there? And, look at the law of diminishing returns as well. As people are helping, are they building with one hand, tearing down with the other? And like, let's be real, when I really started to look at some of the people that I chose to be around, I was like, well, I'll be darned. They're actually just breaking even. So you're kind of here. Like,
come on now.
I'm not giving 100%, and you giving 100%. It's kind of like everything that you give, you're taking just as much.
So where's the return?
Exactly. And it doesn't end up being a situation where we're building each other up. It ends up being a situation where, we're both building each other up. And then, so I couldn't blame anybody but myself when I started to look at certain situations where it's like, oh, you know what, such and such used you. And it's like, well, no, I have to take accountability for me and what I chose or did, what I did or did not do, and examine what were the red flags that I ignored, or the things that were precursors to said behavior that I could have, as soon as the behavior reared its ugly head, just said, hey, so we're going to have a talk about boundaries now. You're violating one. And your choices are either, please don't treat me this way. Please don't do these things to me. Or, I'm going to, whatever you decide is the other side of your boundary, I'm going to have to remove myself from the situation, or I'm not going to be able to engage in. Or let me just make it super plain. If your cousin ain't gonna pay you back the $20, no, they can't keep calling you every other day to borrow $20
Yeah,
more because they're gonna
that
pay
was
you on
their
payday and
last
they'll never
time.
pay you. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, that was their last time. Like you said, it's all about boundaries, and it's all about accountability as well, and really realizing how much of that we lack. And sometimes we don't want to own up to that either. And it can be a difficult conversation. It can be a difficult conversation with ourselves, but so is growth.
That's
So it's all
facts.
about what you want more at the end of it.
Yeah. The hashtag
Mhm.
how bad you want it. Shout out to ET. Like,
Okay.
and with what you just said there, as far as with oh, I lost my thought. It was just on the tip of my tongue too. Um, mm, it's gonna have to come back to me. And watch y'all. I'm gonna go back and watch the video and be like, yo, so from last week, 'cause it was just there, talking about accountability and making our own decisions. It'll come back. It'll come back to me. That's gonna keep me up for the rest of the night, y'all. It's really gonna keep me up tonight.
It's all right. Like you said, it'll come back.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, accountability is key because it's really admitting that you have to grow. It'll
That's
never happen if you don't think you need to.
and you just brought the thought back to my head. And it was this that I I can't even say I find it funny. I just find it interesting in my
Mhm.
observation when I'm having these difficult conversations, which one of my
Mhm.
coaches, he was like, yeah, no, we gonna reframe that. It's not a difficult conversation, it's the needed conversation. And I'm
Yes.
like, ooh, you're right.
Mhm.
It feel like it's difficult because I do need to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And as two adults, we should be able to have this conversation to get to a solution. But
Yeah.
one of my observations over like the years and as I switched from like my pre-growth journey self and in those beginning stages, one thing that I started to notice, um part of what makes the conversation difficult is the other person on the receiving end sometimes. As long as you've done the work to be able to communicate like properly, i'm I'm like feeling like I'm beating my head into a wall because I'm like, but I've looked at how to communicate better. I've
Mm.
studied all of these things. I've taken gone to these conferences. I've looked at my
Yeah.
personality test and like, what more can I do? The what more
Yeah.
can I do is take accountability for I was literally trying to do it all and talking to a brick wall.
Come on.
And I was like, you know what? I actually had to start tallying it up as I was, and not in a tit for tat way. I mean, like on my self assessment chart, tallying up, like,
Yeah.
okay, when a conversation where I'm bringing my feelings or I'm bringing something that I feel is an issue or a challenge, bringing it to the other person, whether or not we're actually able to like have this healthy conversation, have this needed conversation, or have this crucial conversation, and we're able to literally just sit and talk back and forth in dialogue about what
Mhm.
about my feelings, about the facts of what happened, finding out the other person's intentions, um and just the entire conversation surrounding that. I noticed that there was a very definitive line between the type of people who I was able to have the needed conversation and we were
Mhm.
able to get to a resolution and or a
Yes.
solution
Yes.
versus the type of people that I let them know, hey, I noticed this is an issue or I'm bringing an issue to you. And then
Mhm.
the way that the conversation went, each conversation doesn't have to go exactly how you want it, but there are indications in conversation when you're receiving half apologies or kind of just like a, oh well, I'm sorry you felt that way, haha,
Okay.
like, so it,
Right.
oh, if that's how you feel, it is what it is. And it's like, okay, someone can have feelings, but what actions led up to that? And
Right.
one thing that I always use as an indicator, I'm like, and I found out somebody actually told me, like, you know what, you're infuriating because you'll just admit when you're wrong. And I'm like, I thought we were trying to get to the solution
Yeah,
though.
that's what, right,
I
right.
thought that was the purpose of the
Yes.
conversation. I thought that's
Would
why you
you
brought this
rather
to
or
me.
not?
And
Right.
if any of my actions made you feel a certain way and you tell me that, like, I don't have like that type of like ill intent. Like if I said something
Mm-hmm.
too harshly, or if my attitude or body language or something, like my spouse, he tells me all the time, he's like, hey, you kind of said that, like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, hold on, let me physically stop what I'm doing, because I'm trying to read something with one hand, typing
Mm-hmm.
with the other hand. When you
Mm-hmm.
called me and said, are you busy? I said, no. What is it?
Right.
And
Right.
then when you're trying to have a full conversation with me, now I'm agitated because you're responding to, I said I'm not busy.
Yeah.
When what I meant was like, make it quick if you can. If you're about to ask me where's the ketchup, I can just tell you and I'll turn it around or without moving. Is this a and
Uh-huh.
and that's where I'm like, you know what? That was my bad. Let me
Mm-hmm.
stop. Let me give you my full attention. I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to be attitudinal. My attention is divided on three things right now, and then I just
Yeah.
added our conversation to it. And
Right.
so let me just go ahead and stop. What did you need?
Mm-hmm.
Can you repeat yourself? I apologize because I
Yeah.
wasn't fully listening. Like I heard
Right.
you, but I wasn't fully listening. And it had been told to me like, you know what? You know how some people are like, you just can't ever admit when you're wrong. I get in trouble because I'm like, oh, I was wrong. That was my bad. Even if I wasn't wrong, I'm gonna still be like, oh, my bad, because there's something
Because
about,
there's something there. Yes, there's
even
something
no,
there. And I don't have a problem owning up to whatever it may have been because one, I know it wasn't intentional. Two, I want to get to the bottom of it. And of course, not to cut you off, sis, but I do want to understand and I respect your feelings. I respect how it is that you feel in this moment. And we're going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to respect your time. If you need a moment to process, if we need to revisit this at another time, whatever the case may be, but I'm here and I'm open to us having this conversation. We can schedule it if that's what we need to do. We can, whatever the case may be. But I'm never too proud of a woman to say, I apologize for this and recognize where I am wrong or how I misunderstood something. So yeah, I'm right there with you. In a heartbeat. Oh, that was definitely on me. I will take the heat for that. I misread the whole text message. I'm gonna sit back down. But what I have learned is, yeah, sometimes it can come off as disingenuous because my wife will definitely tell me that, oh, you're just apologizing because you want to be non-confrontational or because you just want to end the conversation or you just want to, nip it in the bud. No, I genuinely want to, I want to us to come to an agreement or an understanding of, where the miscommunication, where the misunderstanding was. So I do hear you that there, and it takes a good, foundation and openness to both want to understand. The same for friendships, the same for, family, parents, siblings, whatever the case may be, to really, one, not be dismissive of someone's feelings. Rather, it is apologizing. Oh, I'm sorry, you feel that way, and being genuine or disingenuous about it, or not apologizing at all. So, yes.
yeah, that's facts. And yeah, you on my the right side of my checklist.
Girl.
Where I'm like, okay, I see how we talked about such and such and such, and it was an actual conversation. And
Yeah.
that, like, just the way that the conversations are handled, how you said that both
Mhm.
people have to want to be interested. I started
Yeah.
to notice the overlapping similarities between those people who I was able to have that conversation with, and we were able to work through some things and get past it. And I mean, at bare minimum, it's like we can agree to disagree, but
Hmm.
I'm just like, a true friend wouldn't be trying to hurt your feelings or, do whatever. And I'm like, at bare minimum, even if you like, no, I vehemently disagree. I'm sorry that the way that I presented that or what I said, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings with my, whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to me, as far as I'm concerned, if it ain't God, and even if your God ain't my God, if you doing, whatever your religion or whatever your belief system is, I can still respect that. And it's like, even on that tip, being able to have a roundtable conversation without people screaming and throwing scriptures at each other and just being mean and vicious. It's like people can have different opinions, people can have different beliefs and still get along just fine. But what
Mm-hmm.
I noticed was having that growth mindset, having goals set for
Yes.
themselves, and I won't even I don't even want to say being open-minded. I kind of want to say being like knowledge seeking enough, because dare I
Mm.
say smart enough, dare I say smart enough to
Yeah.
just be like open and so esteemed in self and like being rooted and knowing who they are, that it's like, okay, you have one opinion of something, I have something different, but I'm me, I'm comfortable with being me. And
Yes.
okay, we are agreeing to disagree, and that's okay. That doesn't, for most things, that doesn't determine a friendship or anything like that, or a relationship dynamic. Romantic relationship, we'll just take that one out of the relationship pot.
Fair enough.
So I just mean in platonic and social
Yes.
relationships. Okay.
Yes.
So like as I started to look at the things that were common for the group of people who, when there was an issue or when I needed to bring something to them or they needed to bring something to me, that it became like a he said, she said. The
Mm-hmm.
conversation was never had. The conversation was avoided. With leading questions, it's like, okay, well, do we need to take some time? Would you like to address this later? And it's like, well, no, but I'm also gonna come out to the party because I want to party. Like it's time, it's Instagram
Mm-hmm.
time,
Yeah.
and I started to just notice some of the characteristics of both types of people. And part of the self-reflection that I had to do in doing that, in looking at the characteristics that were associated with one type of person or another, I had to look at how I had evolved from being tolerant or being ignorant to the behavior of those people who would sweep things under the rug or kind of
Mm-hmm.
just like ignore the problem or play that little frenemies game, or like, well, we gonna be best friends over here, but we don't like that one, even though one of us is the best friend with her. Like, oh, well, that's your best friend, that's not my best friend. Like all of those types of
Mm-hmm.
things. And I had to self-examine on the places where I'm like, you know what? I could have been more stern in speaking up that, what, we aren't going to do this. And I'm
Yeah.
going to make the decision that we are not going to do this. And if you choose to continue to do this, then we'll need to talk about, what are the boundaries of the conversations that we will and won't have.
Yes.
There were things where I could have been a more stern moderator, even in trying to help people pass their conflict with being a little bit too nice. There were, I would say, fewer times where there was someone who, we try to do that thing where it's like, well, nobody is wrong. But then there are
Mm-hmm.
situations where it's like, no, I did see
Someone's
your
clearly.
actions and it was abundantly clear. And now I'm trying to be nice to you because you're my friend also, but right now I
Mm-hmm.
see you gaslighting my other friend and pretending that your actions weren't what they were, and I've seen you do it multiple times, and no, that is not fair. Your behavior
Mm-hmm.
is hurtful. And so I started to like reflect back on some of those situations where I'm like, you know what, I could have stepped up more. And you don't know what you don't know until you find out that you didn't know it.
Yeah.
One of the biggest tools that I'm like, oh dang, I wish I had known about this like years and years prior, was just the entire concept of boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't just mean like throwing that word out there. I refer you guys back to the James Clear book all the time. so that you're not just saying like, oh, I got boundaries, because I'm sorry. If you have social media boundaries, your boundaries is ghetto, and those are not actual boundaries. Like, I need you
Mm-hmm.
to do the research
In your
at bare
real life.
minimum, right? Like, read the
Yeah.
cliff notes,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of things that people they label as boundaries, but that's not how it actually works. So really the boundaries are for you. They're not for the other
Mm-hmm.
person. They are
Right.
for you to make a decision on what your behavior, what your reaction will be in the face of behaviors that are harmful to you, or
Yes.
behaviors that you don't want to tolerate, that you don't like, that are hurtful in any
Yes.
way, whether that's physical, mentally, emotionally, physically, well, any of that. Okay.
Absolutely.
And it's not an ultimatum. The boundaries are just, they are a standalone tool that you have decided, if my friend gets in my face and yells at me and the spit from her mouth lands on my lip while she's yelling in
Mm-hmm.
my face again, I am going to back up, let her know, I'm sorry, I asked you to not speak to me that way, I'm going to leave. And from there, like, there's nothing else to talk about. There's no additional back and
Mm-hmm.
forth. There's no like, oh, well, no, you gonna get it unless you're in your own house, which in that case, the boundary
Yeah.
would be you probably would not invite this
Yeah.
friend over or allow this friend over
Right.
until they're able to demonstrate that they can respect your boundary. But in that situation, you would be making your exit stage right, politely is the goal, to exit
Mm-hmm.
politely and gracefully. But even that is a journey in itself, working your way
Yeah.
up to the polite
Yeah.
exit. But that you're removing yourself from the situation or the environment, not trying to kick everybody else out.
Mm-hmm.
And so keeping that in mind, with what true healthy boundaries are and how they work. And that was a tool that for me, I'm like, dang, if I had a time machine, I would just get that book and I
So
would
much.
drop it off to myself in like middle school, so that I
That
could
part.
just be super pre-prep for life. Okay.
And the one thing I add to that is when it comes to boundaries, so much of it is truly knowing ourselves at the end of the day. I mean, yes, we go through all of these obstacles in life that we have to overcome. And so many people think it's just about, I don't want to be a people pleaser anymore. I want to learn to say no. But truly, it's about learning yourself. So learning what your triggers are, what is that really going to do to you at the end of the day? How is that going to set you off? How are you going to feel at the end of the night? Are you really going to be proud of that decision you just made? And having to sit with that, right? So and sometimes we learn that through those experiences that we have gone through. So once you really sit with your decisions at the end of those nights through more than enough of occasions, you really learn, okay, I've had enough, I'm not happy with this decision truly was not for you. It was for me at the end of the day. I'm just not realizing it. And we have those different tips, those tools, the mentorship, the literature. We have all of these, other things to our exposure, and we start to learn it better. But that part alone, at a minimum, just understanding yourself, learning yourself, is how we get there.
That's real. That's real. And another one of those, you just talked about a choice right there, a major one. Learning from those situations that come up,
Yeah.
those uncomfortable situations, those are all opportunities to learn
Mm-hmm.
if you
Yes.
allow it.
Yes.
That's and to me that's very similar to that line that I drew down the middle of the piece of paper where a problem or a challenge presents itself. There are
Mm-hmm.
some people who are solution oriented, who are
Okay.
looking for the best possible outcome for everyone involved. And then there
Yes.
are those who do not have the desire to get to a solution. And
Okay.
sometimes, unbeknownst to us, their solution, because that's what feels good to them, it could be drama. It could be just a bunch of mess. And that's where we
Right.
start talking about being misaligned with the people that you're around or spending time with. But
That part.
that's definitely a choice to be made. And we get that opportunity presented to us on a regular basis. How we react, whether or not that boundary that we've already talked to ourselves about, you know what, like you said, I've established that I don't like this when it has happened on time A, B, or C. And also being able to advocate for yourself if you say, like, you know what, I don't enjoy insert whatever behavior here. And it's like, oh, well, you ain't never said nothing about it before. And that is why I am bringing it to you now after spending
Yeah.
time with myself and thinking about and reflecting
Yes.
on the feelings that
Yeah.
I've had about said behavior after each time that it has occurred. If you'd like to talk about it, this is how I felt after you did said action that I always let you do, and having that conversation.
Come on.
And if
You
the
preach.
person on the receiving end, if they're not receptive to having that conversation itself, I would say that's one of those people that, as you're evaluating who you're around and who you're spending that time with, take a look at, you know, the perceived value of that person in your life
Yes.
and
Yes.
being attached to you.
Yes. Because every day we truly are making a decision. The moment you go out that door, the moment you come back in at the end of your evening, you're deciding if you're going to either continue to live in denial or live in your truth. And the moment people start treating you as though living in your truth is no longer convenient for them, or the new realizations that you're having and the new boundaries that you are setting for yourself is now becoming uncomfortable for them, and the access that they have to you, it's telling you everything that you need to know. And that is it. You no longer need to convince that person to come around, or, that they have to respect your boundaries. They're showing you. And trust that, and move on. And we do understand, yes, this is easier said than done. And that's why it is a journey. So
That's big facts.
yeah.
And one of the things that makes that journey easier is having those blinders on and
Yeah,
having something that you're focused on running toward, which
absolutely.
I'm gonna go ahead and bring us full circle with. Y'all know what you're supposed to look at, right? The journal. I'm glad I moisturized my
That part.
elbows.
That part.
But
And
when you
community. And I will add that. And community, community, community.
that part as well.
Yes.
Like when, and I would say that for writing your vision down, sometimes even before you get to the community, it can aid you in finding out what community are you looking for? What community are you able to pour into, and what community is good for you, so that you're not
Yes.
just popping from place to place looking for somewhere to belong, because
Mm-hmm.
all of that
Don't be a lost
information,
soul. Yeah.
mhm,
Yes.
all of that stuff will be in your vision and will be a part of that. That will be like your guiding north star to a certain degree, and to help you to strategize and look for the things that are in alignment with ultimately where your life is going,
Mm-hmm.
and what you're aiming for, so that you can make sure not only are you looking at who you're around, but if and when you need to move, where are you going, or who
Mm-hmm.
do you need around to help you to bring that vision to fruition. So I want to thank you so much for joining us for Everybody Can Go Convo,
Of
and for
course.
sharing our experience, sharing your experience with us, and shoot, for trusting me in the audience with yo Everybody Can't Go story. You know, everybody got one, but everybody ain't brave enough to share how they've grown, how they've evolved, and the different challenges they went through, and then also how they overcame those things to come out on the other side and be out here just a win. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. It was surely my pleasure. Keep up everything that you're doing. We love to see it. I love to see it, and I can't wait to see more. Thanks.
Thank you, sis. All right, you guys, we will see y'all next week, next Wednesday, again at 10 p.m. for another Everybody Can't Go Convo. You know, you never know who is going to pop up on the screen. You never know who I'm going to have for you next. So we'll see y'all next week.